Hello everyone, I hope you're doing fine. My name is Skyline. I saw a post at the top of our cows today, and while it isn't really a new topic by any stretch of the imagination, it did remind me, so I sat back and I thought about it a bit. It is true that not many support players are in top 500, particularly in Season 4, so why is that? Is it because supports just, can't carry as hard? There were a lot of people comparing it to MOBAs, but I don't really think that that's a proper comparison. I've hit top 1% in the ladder of basically every serious esport MOBA to have ever existed, so basically that's what League of Legends, Dota 2, and Heroes of Newerth. But I've always played support, right? I've never felt any inherent disadvantage under any of the carries or the mid players or anything like that. So what's up with Overwatch? Well, Overwatch hasn't been too different, I think. I've hit top 500 solo support in the 2 seasons I've played seriously, and so have plenty of others, so it's certainly not impossible. Hey, if I can do it, you can do it. Come on, guys. Have you seen my stream? It's Spaghetti Central over there. But at the same time, I do feel a little bit differently than when I played those MOBAs. There are times when I feel an unfair advantage when I'm going head-to-head with a DPS player on the other team, and by that I mean it's a pretty common scenario that you'll have a game where each team is given a top 500 person and the other 10 players are all high master or they're low GM. In this case, it's sort of a direct competition between those two higher ranked outlier players. So I think that as of now, in these situations in the game, the team with a DPS player has a higher chance of winning. And this is different than how MOBAs work. But why? It's just a matter of simply having the ability to focus, I think. In a MOBA, I, as a support player, cannot be everywhere on the map at once. I need to specifically focus on just a few players because the map's so big, you're so small, and by doing that, I can put extra resources into either propping up specific weaker players on my team or tearing down specific stronger players on the enemy team. If I know the enemy mid player is really good, I can find time to roam around and mess with him or even camp him. At that point, it comes down to, his game sense versus mine, vision wars, predictions, and, we're playing the game, right? In Overwatch, however, every fight is a big 6v6 battle, and supports aren't limited to just interacting with a few players for most of the game. At any point, you can help out anywhere, and this isn't really a bad thing. I think it's cool, actually, having supports be such a macro-heavy role with a lot of multitasking awareness throughout the whole game. I think it's very cool. It's fun. In having this design, though, where supports, the skill of being a support is sort of balanced around being a multitasker and a macro manager, it sort of limits the amount of impact that a support player can have in any one specific place. A Mercy, for example, can only ever contribute 60 health per second of healing to a fight, right? Just 60. Say we're talking about a 2v2, right? Where each side has a DPS and a support. If both supports are playing Mercy, they're both healing exactly 60 health per second, no matter what. If I'm a top 500 Mercy, it's 60. If they're a bronze Mercy, it's still 60 health per second. The entire decider of the fight is the DPS players in that case, because the supports have no way of really differentiating their abilities. Other supports aren't quite as binary, right? But the concept still remains that there's much less room to differentiate yourself from a lower skilled player in these direct sort of fights. The skill comes into play in other areas, of course. Sure, a bronze Mercy and a GM Mercy both heal for 60 health per second. Man, how many times have I said that, right? But the GM Mercy will have better target priority and positioning, and they won't die, and has better reses and key damage boost timings and all that stuff. So there is a huge difference, right? There is. But it highlights a key difference between DPS players and support players. That's of course not the same with MOBAs. Support heroes are, first of all, usually not healers there. They often have damaging abilities and stuns of their own that allow a great support player to do a lot more in a fight than a bad one. But anyway, DPS players can focus. If you're a tracer and you can say, that player on the other team looks good, I'm gonna go kill him. You can't really do that on a support. You saw a lot of successful Annas actually climb quite high back when she had 80 damage, because Anna could do that. You could say, hey, that top 500 DPS on the other team is a problem. I'm just gonna go shoot him. And then you shoot him, and there you go. Now with only 60 damage, it's much less effective to do that. So Anna players are kind of falling back in line in terms of the rest of the supports. Zenyatta can do it. He can shoot things, but he has a lot of weaknesses by himself. When you want to focus on a support, maybe you can play Zenyatta, sure, but it's just Zenyatta. Your DPS equivalent on the other team has like 6 different heroes to potentially choose from, and some of them are very good against Zenyatta, so more flexibility there. Support players can't focus, and it's not because we have ADHD. It's because our impact comes from being everywhere, or at least the right wares, at the right time. So when you have a match with a support player on one team and a DPS player on the other, who are both big outliers, as you often get in that top 500 bracket, the DPS player can more effectively direct the flow of the match and even just go kill the enemy support player, assuming that they're equally skilled. So I think that is what is keeping a lot of support players out of top 500, at least for this season. When you get to that extreme of the ladder where it's very personal and you're often an outlier pitted against other outliers, you'll have a disadvantage if you're up against a DPS player. This, of course, doesn't affect the rest of the ladder where teams are mostly even. If you play support, you shouldn't have any problem climbing than any other class until you start contending for top 500 really in that GM space. If you're stuck in a lower rank, don't blame it on being a support player, simply focus on improvement. But I think that there is something we can learn about this actually. That's right, focus. Support players who've climbed high got there, at least I did right now. I don't know about you guys. I know myself, right? I got there because of a great understanding of the macro game and teamfight dynamics. Maybe it's hard to break out of that one for all mentality and just focus down one section of the fight, even if it means letting the rest burn for the greater good. I invite support players who are contending for top 500 to zoom in on one section of the fight, the one where you think that the outlier ranks are going to have the most impact, and learn some micromanagement techniques as well. Now that we're near the end and everyone has already turned off the video, I'll say that none of this is a bad thing. I'm not complaining. This is not a complaint video. This is not a bad thing. I don't want anything to necessarily change. It's just a quirk of the game. This doesn't make supports underpowered or any less skillful. It just makes it not as good of a class to metagame the absolute tippity top ranks with, and if people understand that, then it's no problem. I think the new Lucio rework actually will go a long way towards giving supports additional options to have that high focused impact on the game as well. See, by the way, I wait until the end so people who didn't hear that last part get the wrong idea and start to argue in the comments below. It increases the engagement rating for the video, and YouTube SEO score is the main measurement I use to judge my own life worth. Anyway, never forget, guys, to stay positive. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.